You're listening to the Email Expert Podcast, where you get real examples, real strategies, and expert advice with your host, Daniel Dayette.
All right, everybody, thank you for tuning into this week's podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Dayette, and last episode we talked about the ultimate story and how to really use that in your marketing. So if you're really not sure how to tell stories that'll actually get conversions and results and really drive your business and connect with people, do check out that episode, iTunes, Spreaker, etc. And please, if you are on any of those platforms and you're liking what you're hearing, give us a review there of 5 stars if you could. So today's current episode, avoiding the spam box, or more importantly, hitting the inbox of your customers and subscribers. So as I dive into this, I'm going to break it down into 2 things. Now, I'm assuming most of you guys are going to be on a online platform like, Constant Contact, MailChimp, any of the major platforms, Get Response, etc. Maybe even Mail or Active Campaign or Infusionsoft. Anyway, regardless of what system you're on, or whether you're on a custom server like the kind that my team create for specialized situations like mailing 100,000, where even a 10% increase in deliverability would have a dramatic impact to the bottom line. Email deliverability breaks down into 2 categories. Number 1, your system side, right? So that's how you're managing your email list itself, how you're monitoring your email list, and your own settings. And then, of course, there's the off-system factors, like whether you're on any particular blacklists, whether you've joined any accreditations like white labeling within the industry, like Return Path, whether you are monitoring ISP feedback loops, and those kind of things, and maybe some ISP level factors that you basically, some of those things you can't control and some of them you can. Obviously, you can go and get accredited. You can try and get yourself removed from blacklists, etc. But let's focus on the system side. This is the things that you can easily control. Now, most people don't know that even if you're on MailChimp or Infusionsoft or things like that, that you can go and get your DKIM or DKIM and your SPF or your sender policy framework set up so that your email address, or I should say your domain name and email address, are connected. Now, I know they sound nerdy. Please trust me, they're actually not complicated. I won't dive deep into what Domainkeys and sender policy framework are, but let me just say that they basically tell anybody receiving the email that it's legitimately from your domain name. So it's something to do with going to your GoDaddy, your Namecheap, or wherever you have your domain hosted, and putting some chunks of code in there that tell the people who receive your email that it's legitimately coming from you. And so that's not complicated to do, but it does have a huge impact on your ability to reach the inbox. So that's about as technical as I really want to get. Stepping down in the technicalities, valid HTML. It's kind of a weird thing that some systems don't validate, or I should say check over your HTML to make sure it's valid. If you don't know what HTML is, this is probably something that it's worth knowing, but if you don't know it, basically if you're using a visual editor, it's probably already taken care of, but you'll still probably want to check. And at the very end, I'll talk about how you can check. Equal image to text ratio. So try not to use humongous images. If you do, you might want to include a few paragraphs of text below to offset the balance. If your email address that you send from is one of your own domain name emails, like email list at yourname.com, or even, if you at all use your own domain name so that customers know that the email is coming from you, you might want to set up a forwarder or an actual email address at abuse at or postmaster at yourdomain.com, And keep an eye on that, because you never know what kind of messages you're going to get from ISPs that don't like, or internet service providers, people who provide email addresses to other people. Make sure that those are okay. So if you use like cPanel or something like that, you can set it up in there. So let's kind of dive in for a second to engagement monitoring and list hygiene. List hygiene is an industry sort of language that basically what it really means is responding quickly to unsubscribes. Now, if you're using something like MailChimp or Aweber or anything like that, Infusionsoft, again, all the things I listed in the very beginning of this call, or this podcast, then it's already taking care of unsubscribes instantly when they click unsubscribe. The opt-in confirmation, obviously, single opt-in, which is another way of saying, somebody doesn't have to click confirm and they're already on the list, is a bit dangerous, because robots and online bots around the internet can just fill up your email list with fake addresses because they don't have to click confirm. When you have double opt-in, which means that they opt in and they have to click a link, yes, I confirm I want to join this email list, that doesn't happen. So you can't have robots sign up because they're not going to click the email that comes to them right after that. Removing and suppressing the unengaged. So removing somebody, that's pretty obvious, right? If somebody hasn't opened or clicked on anything in a year, removing them, that's obvious. But suppressing is an interesting thing. Now, imagine you have a list of 100,000 people and 40,000 of them are fairly active. They're opening and clicking and reading your emails. Okay? The other half of your list, the other 60,000, you can still send them a monthly newsletter, once a month, and keep in touch with those people. And if they do engage with that monthly newsletter, again, move them over into the to the active list of the 40,000. So that's what it really means to not delete them, but to just not send as much volume to those inactive people, and to really focus on the actives. Because the actives are people you can send your launches to, you can send sales promotions and all those kind of things. But the longer somebody stays inactive, i.e. hasn't opened or clicked on anything in a really long time, the higher chance of becoming a spam or an unsubscribe. Obviously, if somebody clicks on spam in their Gmail, AOL, Yahoo, etc., Hotmail, that's not more than just going to delete it from their inbox. Although there are some users that actually think that just deletes the email, but it doesn't. It does something far more dangerous. It actually notifies the ISP or the internet service provider, aka let's pretend it's Gmail, notifies Gmail that you didn't ask for this email. Now, let's say you legitimately subscribed and you were just trying to delete it. What happens is the person who sent you that email gets penalized, and if they get too many of those, they can get shut down by their, Aweber get response eye contact. So it's a very serious thing to say, I just got, spammed. So, anyway, so bottom line is that the longer somebody's inactive, the higher the likelihood of that happening. Removing soft bounces after the third bounce. Again, lots of the systems do that, but if you have commercial email software, you want to make sure that it's doing that, and that's something that, again, our team does set up, and we have been building those things for a very long time. So let's talk about, so we talked about all kinds of different ways that, you can manage your list. We talked about, monitoring abuse ad and properly formatted HTML, the DKIM SPF. Careful word selection. Okay, so obviously certain words and even certain ways of wording things can set off a trigger, a spam trigger. Now, there's a certain amount of prediction we can do, a certain amount of testing we can do to make sure our message is not going to get flagged as spam. There's also a certain amount we cannot do, because a Bayesian filter, again, getting nerdy on you here for a second, is a filter that all ISPs have that's being constantly trained live by active users. It's watching which things somebody clicks spam, which people delete, or people basically engage with and choose not to receive and unsubscribe from. It's monitoring the words people don't want and looking for patterns. each computer around the internet is, for example, Gmail, Yahoo, each one of them. I remember back in the day, Yahoo used to have tons and tons of servers focused only on this function of learning from users what they thought was spam and what they didn't think was spam. So what we can do, there's a tool called www.mail-tester.com, and at that tool you can have a really good insight as to whether your DKIM and SPF, otherwise known as your authentication, are set up properly, whether your HTML is valid. Obviously you can't see your own list engagement. That's something totally different. But it will give you an idea of everything from the image-text ratio, whether you're on any blacklists, all those kind of things to have you get the best chance possible of reaching the inbox. So just to wrap up today, there's probably tons of factors, or at least a handful of factors that I have not dug deeply into. But hopefully this gives you a better idea of just how incredibly complex deliverability can be. And if you're looking to find out if there's anything you can do to reach the inbox more often, if you're looking at your opens and clicks on your email and they're just not as high as you'd like them to be, industry standard average is roughly 28% is sort of the baseline. If you're getting less than that, you definitely have some room for growth. If you're getting dramatically less than that, like 5 to 10%, you definitely need to talk to somebody who's an email marketing expert, such as myself. You can always reach me at info@answerswanted.com, or send me a message on any of the other social platforms. But anyway, other than that, next episode we're going to be talking about the psychology of marketing. So we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics on earth, which is, why do people do what they do? And how can we influence people for positive things, whether that be joining a webinar or whether that be, buying our stuff and investing in their future, etc. So psychology of marketing, definitely not to be missed. It should be lots of fun. Thank you for tuning in. Check us out again. And we'll be delivering all kinds of crazy, juicy value.
Thanks for listening to the Email Expert Podcast. To get your free guides, templates, and more, join us at www.emailexpertpodcast.com.